and welcome to the Feet of Jesus, where we are going through the entire Bible, one book at a time. This week, we are in Luke 22, part 1. Luke 22's work in this book was 10 entries long, so we decided to break it up in two. So we're going to do the first half today. So before we get started with that, I want to go through a little ministry business with you. I'm excited to go through it. There's some really fun points to it. First of all, you may notice that we're not in an extra special location. I have to admit, I really tried to have a different location every week, but I have sort of run out of special locations. There's some wonderful locations in Albuquerque. I love my home state, and I can tell you the ins and out of this place because not only have I lived here all my life, so has my dad, so has his mom and her father. So, and then his father was one of the settlers here in this area. So I really do know my home state and I love it. But I have just decided, I've prayed about it a lot. I've prayed about the location and the special locations, and I've just decided that it really is okay every once in a while to do it here at my house. I do have some extremely special locations coming up. This spring, I have two wonderful vacations that I'm going to take, and I would love to tell you about them in person. I can't really talk about them on social media, but I'm very excited about them, and I will, Lord willing, I will be able to film some of these in those extra special locations. Those will be really neat. More than that, in the spring, I cannot wait to show you the Bosque in Albuquerque. There's a Bosque trail with a river, and it's beautiful. And I can't wait to go hiking up the mountain that's just right over there and take a picture of the city and video from up there. I can't wait to show you Old Town and Santa Fe, and there's so many places in this big, beautiful world that God is going to allow us to do special videos with special locations. But sometimes, you know what? It's gonna be you and I on my couch. And I love that. I love that this medium and this book that God has given me and given us will allow us to just be together on my couch. It's kind of fun. So that's where we're going to be this week. And here and there, we're going to be here. And sometimes we're going to be in great special locations. So here's some fun stuff to come. Second bit of ministry news that I am extremely excited to tell you about. This is the book we've been working on. It is At the Feet of Jesus, Quiet Times in the Book of Luke. As you can tell, the feet, i.e. the feet of Jesus, are on water because water holds such a significant place in Luke and frankly in all of the Gospels. Now I have workbook 2. So this is At the Feet of Jesus, Quiet Times in the Book of Acts. If you want to, I would love you to stop the video and make it large and see this cover. It's gorgeous. Shout out to my graphic designer that designs these covers. Her name is Tara, and she is amazing. The feet of Jesus here, if you can tell, are on clouds, and there's a mountain behind. So in the book of Acts is Jesus' ascension into heaven. So his earthly ministry is over in the book of Acts, and it's the beginning of the baby Christian church. And so I am so excited to get started in this book. And I want to give you an extra special shout out today. I love dedications. This first book, the book of Luke, I never did get a chance to share with you my dedication for this. This book began because I have a group of ladies. I have 3 groups of ladies sometimes 4, that I work with here in Albuquerque. One is the X Factor ladies. One is a group of ladies at a senior center, which are awesome. They're my newest group. One group of ladies are administration and teachers at Sunset Mesa Elementary School. And the other is a group I call the Harris Group. It's a group that is led by Stacy Harris, and shout out to her. And the dedication of this first book from Luke is to Stacy Harris, Annette Koopman, Karen Gutierrez, and Leanna Pettis. Ladies, I have been blessed beyond words to be witness to your beautiful Christian growth. Thank you for letting me have a front row seat. This book is for you. I truly created this book for them and this whole thing because we do Bible studies. I write 3 or 4 a year, but in between, I wanted them to have something to do. And this is what I created for them to do in between the Bible studies that I write that we do together. So now we're on to the new book. I want to share with you that my original idea was just to do the book of Luke. That's all it was. And then toward the beginning of doing these videos, I realized it would be phenomenally wonderful if God gave me the perseverance and the wisdom and the heart to just keep doing this series of workbooks. I have to do a certain amount of preparation and planning and writing to be able to do these. And so at the same time that I'm doing a book, I'm writing the next one. But God showed me that this could be a workbook series that goes through the entire Bible. Now, in the midst of that, there was one friend who lives in Dallas, Texas, who spurred me on, who keeps up with me in these books, who always finishes the homework before the video for that week. She watches the video every Monday morning and she comments on those videos every Monday morning. And you know what? I just love her. If it wasn't for her, I'm not sure I would have really finished this awesome book. And I'm not sure I would have had the prodding from the Holy Spirit and the leading that this is good. Keep going. So I'm going to read you my dedication. I have to get to the beginning of it. It says, to Jennifer Reed, thank you for pushing me to study along with you at your quick and daily pace. Your excitement and joy through the study has kept me focused to keep going. The study of the book of Acts is dedicated to you because without you, I may not have finished it. So, Jennifer, I know you're watching this, and I know it's probably Monday morning, and thank you for spurring me to do this next book. And folks, we're gonna get to this in about a month. In about a month, we're gonna be finished with Luke, and we're gonna start making these videos, so I can't wait. So let's get on to the show and do some of these videos, don't you think? Okay, the first passage we're going to study is Luke 22:13. So let me read it. So they went and found it just as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover. So this is right before the Last Supper. This is right before Passover, and Jesus, they're coming into the town, and Jesus asks 2 of his disciples to go make the Passover dinner for them. And they say to Jesus, well, where should we prepare it? And he says, well, you're going to find a man right at this such and location, and this is what he's going to say, and this is what you do, and he's going to give you this room to do it in. And it happened exactly the way Jesus had said it would. So let me read the passage again. So they went, the 2 disciples, so they went and found it just as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover. You know, I am stunned every single time I read this passage, and so many passages like this. This is not the only one where Jesus totally tells them it's going to be this way, and it ends up being that way. You know, Jesus foreknew all the details that would take place in this above passage. But this week, while I was studying this, it meant more to me than that. All of a sudden I realized he did more than foreknew. Yes, he foreknew. He knew what was going to happen. Jesus is God. So he knows, he is omniscient. He knows everything. But you know what? More than that, he arranged all those details. Isn't that awesome? And you know what? He didn't just arrange those details. I love reading through this passage. And I love getting stunned over and over and over again about Jesus' omniscience. But you know what? It shouldn't stun me at this point. I've seen it happen in my life. Have you seen it happen in yours? Where all these things come together for one event to take place. So right now, I'd like you to think of your life. I'd like you to think of where you are right now. Are you on your couch, sitting here watching this? Are you in a special chair? Maybe you're listening to this and not watching it, but listening to this on your car drive on the way to work. Wherever you are, what things had to be arranged for you to see this video? What things had to work together? I think of my life in watching this video, and later I'm going to get into a little of my story with another video, with another passage. But millions and millions and millions of details had to happen just right. That God had to arrange for this video to be taking place. Don't take that information lightly. Don't take that thought lightly. Jesus told the disciples exactly where to go, who would meet them, what that person would say, and what that person would be willing to give them in order to provide the Last Supper. The Last Supper that is so beautiful, that we first hear communion, that he washed the disciples' feet. He knew it all. He arranged it all. So go today knowing that whatever you go through, God has arranged it. We're going to go right now, smack dab into the next verse, because it goes with what we're talking about. It's Luke 22:15. I'm going to read it. Then he said to them, I have fervently desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. Boy, I love the visual on this. That Jesus looked forward to the Last Supper. He had just gone to the Garden of Gethsemane. Remember that. He had just gone to the Garden of Gethsemane and was so immensely stressed and had so much anxiety that he sweat drops of blood. Do you remember that? It has been clinically proven that someone under immense stress can actually sweat blood. What kind of stress did that take? Jesus knew what was coming. He knew exactly what was coming. He knew about the suffering on the cross. He knew about his separation from God for those 3 days. He knew all the things that were about to happen. He knew about all the people that were going to yell at him and spit at him and yank chunks of hair off of his head. He knew all that. Yet, here, after he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane and said, Lord, if this cup can pass, let it pass. But if not, let your will be done. He came off of the mountain after praying that with calm and with peace, that he was doing God's will. Wow. After that, this verse happened. Then he said to them, I have fervently desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. Jesus looked forward to this. He looked forward to the Last Supper. In the midst of all the stuff that was happening, in the midst of all the things that were about to happen, Jesus put those aside, and he thoroughly enjoyed that moment with his disciples. He enjoyed his time with his best friends on this earth. He could have joy in the moment. He could have joy and peace and comfort and calm by pushing aside the bad and enjoying the moment. Over and over and over and over again, Jesus asked us to do the same thing. He told us not to worry. He told us to not fear. Jesus will never, God will never ask us to do something that he doesn't give us the tools to do. I don't know where you are in life. You may be going through immense stress. If you are, Jesus understands it. He was in immense stress, and he was able to push those thoughts aside, the stress aside, to enjoy this dinner with his friends. I would challenge you, if you're going through stress right now, push that aside and enjoy our time together. Find something else today that you can do, that you are going to exercise this ability that God has already given you to push your stress and your worry and your fear away and enjoy the moment. That's how God wants us to live. I always think of it, I love Gone with the Wind, the movie Gone with the Wind. And I remember Scarlett O'Hara saying, I don't have time to worry about that today. I'll worry about that tomorrow. I'm not always successful, but that's what I try to do. I try to just tell myself, I'll worry about that in a few hours. Right now, I'm going to enjoy this. That's how I've gotten through a lot of stress. So, be it as it is. The last verse we're going to go through is Luke 22, 31 and 32. So it's two verses that we're going to work on together. So I'm going to read it first. Simon, Simon. Now, this is Peter that we're talking about because his name was Simon Peter. But here we go. You ready? Simon, Simon, look out. Satan has asked to sift you like wheat. But I have prayed for you that your faith may not fail. And you, when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers. There's so much in this verse. Oh my goodness gracious. First of all, there's some things that we need to understand when we're unpacking this verse. First, we need to understand that Satan and God are not counter equals. Satan is subservient to God. He just is. Satan is more on the level of Archangel Michael. He was one of the top angels before he wanted to be like God, and then he was sent away from heaven and plunged down to earth. So Satan is not the counter equal to God. Satan has to ask permission to do anything to us. You know, we see that here. And I'm going to read the verse again in just a minute. But you know where we also see that very, very powerfully is in the book of Job. I love the book of Job. It's difficult to read and it's difficult to get into. But I love the book of Job. It's one of the books that hopefully in the next year or so that we will do in these workbooks, because it is such a powerful representation of that relationship between Satan and God and the good things that happen to us and the bad and why. So, I'm going to read the verse again. Simon, Simon, look out. Satan has asked to sift you like wheat. Remember, Satan has to ask permission from God in order to do something to you. And Satan in this passage in Luke 22:31 was asking permission to sift Simon Peter, to do something bad to him. He was asking permission from that. So continuing in Luke 22:32, but I, Jesus, have prayed for you that your faith may not fail, and you, when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers. So think about what Jesus is saying right now. Jesus is not saying, Peter, I have prayed that this doesn't happen to you. He says, but I have prayed for you that your faith may not fail. He's prayed that when this bad thing happens, that his faith may not fail, and that he is going to be able to have his faith strengthened, and then hence he's going to be able to strengthen his brothers. So God said yes to Satan here. Why would he do that? Why would God ever say yes to Satan? First of all, we need to understand a couple things. This is a very mature Christian concept. And I pray right now that I am going to give it justice. But God does not create bad things, evil things to happen to you in your life. Satan has to ask. Many times, I'm sure God says no. But when God says yes, why would he say yes? Let's look at that. I can tell you that my most difficult moment, one of my more difficult moments, I'll put it that way, was when my son, we were on a family vacation in Chicago, Illinois. We thought that a health condition that my son suffers from was in remission. And actually, it came back in full force at the Chicago airport. It was completely disheartening. It was infuriating. It was fearful. It was worrisome. It was tragic. I was so upset. The whole family was so upset because we thought it was gone. And here it was, and it came back so very powerfully. Not like this breeze would come back into our life, but a hurricane. And it was horrible. I often refer to that as one of my more difficult moments. I refer to it as my David moment, and that is a term that goes back to my book called The Warrior. And this week I'll put the Warrior link in the description of this video as well as this book and the Book of Acts. So that's my David moment. What did my David moment accomplish? Why might Jesus have said yes when Satan asked to be allowed to bring my son's disorder back from remission? I will be very plain and simple and clear. You are listening to this video because God said yes. This book is here because God said yes. The Warrior book is here because God said yes. This book is here because God said yes. I'm traveling to 2 amazing locations in the spring because God said yes. So, I won't share it in detail, but my husband, his David moment, his moment that he goes back to, created an amazing job that he is fulfilled in, that he adores, that he loves, that he's able to reach all sorts of people, that he's able to supply more people than ever with their dreams and their loves. And that happened. because of his David moment, because God said yes to Satan for his moment. What about Colin in the Chicago airport? That affected him for sure. What did that do when God said, yes, you can use Colin? Colin has an amazing relationship with our Savior that's different than mine, that's different than Alan's, that's different than most people I know. It's a deep friendship. It's a deep love that I don't quite even understand. And I think it's because Colin knows Jesus on such a powerful level. And I think that happened because God said yes to Satan. And then I'm going to say my daughter. My daughter last June had a horrific thing happen to her. All of her belongings were crushed. Her car was crushed. Everything went away. And in the weeks that followed, she looked back at them and thought, this has been some of the best weeks of my life. That happened because God said yes to Satan when he wanted to do that to my daughter. My daughter found out that she has support and love from friends and colleagues that many of us never are able to come to the understanding of. My daughter knows that. So, what did Peter gain? Okay, let's think about what happens. So, again, Jesus says, but I have prayed for you that your faith may not fail. And you, when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers. Where does Peter fail? So we understand now that Jesus, that God said yes to Satan. You may sift Peter like wheat. What did that look like? Do you remember? After this, and we'll probably get into this in Luke 22, part 2 next week. Peter denied Jesus 3 times. The last time, Jesus looked at him. While Jesus was suffering, he looked at Peter after the 3rd rooster crowed. Can you imagine that moment when Jesus looks at you and goes, I told you. Woo! Boy, howdy. So, Satan asked God to sift Peter like wheat. God said yes. Satan did sift Peter. He denied Jesus 3 times, and Peter loved Jesus. He loved Jesus. That is absolutely not in question. I'm sure his failure to Jesus was horribly excruciating to him and to his soul. Woo! But what did God do with that? Remember, Romans 8:28, one of my very favorite verses to quote. God, for all things happen for good, for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. What good happened because of that sifting? Peter did come back from that, and he did strengthen his brothers, and he was a key role in the beginning of the Christian church. We are going to see Peter over and over and over again in the book of Acts. Today, Peter is understood as the leader of the Christian church. God said yes to Satan. You can sift him because God knew what Peter was going to do with that, and what he himself, God, through the Holy Spirit, was going to help Peter do. I want to end today I want you to think of a time when God said yes to Satan in your life. I want you to think through what happened, what got accomplished because God said yes. I know there's something. If you have a hard time, you comment. I will get on the telephone with you and we will talk this through. I will help you find the good. But what if you're in the midst of it right now? Right now, you're in the midst of what was here, the sifting from Satan. If you are, take a deep breath. Pray for that faith. Pray for that strength, and know that God is doing something so very powerful in your life. What is God going to do through this moment that you are experiencing right now? Is it a new home? Is it a move? Is it trouble with the children? Is it trouble in a marriage? What is God doing through that moment? I will absolutely guarantee you that if you're experiencing bad, that just means that God's not done yet. That's all that means. When God's done with this, you're going to be able to look back at it and you're going to be able to see the immense good that God did with it. So I leave you with that thought. Friends, there's so much you could comment on today. Please consider commenting. And please consider sharing this video with your friends. It's pretty simple. You just push on the 3 buttons that are on the right of your screen, and one of the options will be to share. You can copy the link and you can text it to your friends. I would love more, goodness gracious, the word is gone. The subscribers. I would really love more subscribers. We have 39. I'd really love more subscribers. I'd love to get the word out more. I would love to reach people for the gospel of Christ. I would love people to see why sometimes God says yes to the bad in our lives. It's so important to understand, folks. So, please like us. Please subscribe. Share it, have your friends subscribe. And remember, put the worries that you're experiencing, your fear, your difficulties, and your trials at the feet of Jesus, because he loves you and God's got this. Till next week, Luke 22, part 2. Love you all.